Hi there. I hope you're having a good conference at the Esri User Conference 2020. I'm going to speak to you about ways in which GIS is being used to automate business processes in U.S. ports. My name is Daniel Elroi. I'm the President and CEO of NSGIS, short for North-South GIS. More specifically, I'm going to talk about the implementation of a certain software, Enesgy documents, at 3 ports in the United States. So a little bit about NSGIS. We have been deploying GIS in North American ports for over 12 years now, with close to 100,000 consulting hours in 16 ports. And from that very significant experience, we have developed a commercial software called Enesgy documents. It is applicable to more than just ports, of course, but its genesis really is the ports industry and all their special demands. I'm just going to give you a few slides to help explain what the software is about before I go into some real-world examples. So the software is designed in order to help find documents by location. So if you're out in the field, you're working on some rail track, and you need documents that are very specific to that location. The easiest way to find those documents is to use Enesgy documents. This is the area that you're working in. Maybe you have an iPad with a GPS, or you have a laptop, and you just search there. You can search documents directly from the map, in fact, or you can combine map and metadata searches. You can review the results in lists or on the map. You can manage the results and the data like it was a spreadsheet, or through the map, or through reports. You can take the resulting documents that you've retrieved and zip and ship them. You can share the information in dashboards. In fact, you can keep a lot of information, not just about the documents, but also about the polygons, or what we call the containers that describe them. In fact, you may be more interested in the container than in the documents, but it's very flexible. It can handle either or both. It even manages workflows of information inside an organization, such as passing a request from one person to another, updating the status of a project or of a document. It even has the ability to send notifications, such as alerts of lease options coming up, or a proposed development, or expiring documents, and so on. The system architecture is all based, of course, on the Esri ArcGIS platform, and it is flexible. It can store its information in ArcGIS Online or an on-premise ArcGIS enterprise geodatabase, really wherever you need it to be. The documents are stored typically in an enterprise electronic document management system, an EDMS, such as SharePoint or Laserfiche or on-base systems like that. And in that way, Enesgy really sits there between one system of record and another system of record, and then delivers it to clients on in whatever device, on whatever device, in wherever they are, whenever they are. The deployments are very flexible. It can be deployed in the public cloud as a subscription, a private cloud, or on-premise. In terms of the database architecture, it's deceptively simple, but really allows for a great deal of flexibility as to where the spatial elements and the data elements are stored, whether they're stored in a repository that you have control over or don't. The links to the documents are also flexible, and where the documents are, as I said, is also flexible. So you have 2 systems of record, the geospatial one and the document one, and the software connects the 2. All right, so that's the basic premise, but how is it deployed? Well, it's deployed in many different ways. I'm going to use examples from 3 U.S. ports: Port of Alaska, which is in Anchorage, Port of Longview, Washington, and Port of Long Beach, California. A little bit about the Port of Alaska, where the Enesgy software is used to support lease management. So the Port of Alaska is really the lifeline of the state because so much of the crucial goods that are needed just to support life in a harsh environment, the really America's frontier, comes through the port. There are other ports, but they're much smaller and they're more specialized. It is a landlord port. It leases out dozens of long and short-term leases in its 125-acre complex, which actually belongs to the municipality of Anchorage, which you can see in the background. This port is undergoing a massive modernization. That was happening even prior to the large earthquake that afflicted Anchorage a few years ago. And that plays actually a part in why the port decided to use Enesgy. So initially, the port deployed Enesgy documents and SharePoint in order to replace an Excel-based lease management system. And as you can see in this screenshot, these are some of the leases. The software comes with over 170 commercial lease fields in this particular template of Enesgy documents. And you can see fields about the lease and finances and tenants and options, amendments, rent, and so on. It provides a full historic search and reporting capability so that you can run through the current leases as well as historic ones, and provides a management dashboard so that you can look at the management and other stakeholders can look at the finances, so the financial sort of overview of the port, which leases are currently let out and which ones are available, and so on. So for the Port of Alaska, the value proposition of the Enesgy software is to provide, as configured here, a modern lease management system, a complete past to present to future view of the commercial property portfolio, and an ability to leverage the port's existing ArcGIS Online and SharePoint resources. What's next for Enesgy at the Port of Alaska, and that is the management of engineering project records that already existed there in the past, but are rapidly growing with the modernization program. So the software has the flexibility to handle diverse workflows and challenges like lease management as well as engineering challenges. The Port of Longview, Washington, where Enesgy is supporting data conversion and asset management, is a different story. It's an old port. It's been around for, well, nearly 100 years, as you can see from the logo. It's the third largest port in Washington up the Columbia River, about 66 miles upriver. It's much larger. It has 500 acres, and it just acquired 350 more. Unlike the Port of Alaska, the Port of Longview did not have GIS prior to 2018 and prior to Enesgy documents being implemented there. In fact, the software was used in order to catalog, assess, and prioritize the drawings and the other source information with which it was going to build a GIS repository. GIS or source data that is used to build GIS is often cataloged, in spreadsheets. And in this case, we just used the software right from the beginning to catalog and then to help the client determine which source was more valuable, more current, easier to convert, and so on. Now, after the geodatabase was created, which is stored again in ArcGIS Online in the cloud, in the Esri cloud, the port also implemented an asset management and work order system so that they can manage things like valves and hydrants in the typical fashion with complete work order and inventory control and human resource control and all that. But because of the integration with Enesgy documents, it actually gives the asset management software a much richer access and flexible searching capabilities into its document repository. So not everything was converted to GIS, and there's always a need to look at source documents like as-built before opening up the pavement and digging it up, looking for underground utilities. And so this is a great integration of asset management and document management. So for the Port of Longview, the value proposition was pretty obvious: more efficient data assessment, much faster data migration that might have otherwise occurred, and a residual value to that process in the ongoing asset management at the port. Where is Enesgy going next at the Port of Longview? In easement management, that's the next place that is of focus for the port. There's a lot of rail running through the port. That's very typical of ports, of course, and managing the land that is the rights of way and the easement that are either to the port or from the port is where the software is going to go next. We're going to go from a small port, small in size, not in significance, like Alaska, and a medium-sized port like Longview, to a very, very large port, and that is the Port of Long Beach in California, where Enesgy is powering the process of temporary berth reservations. Berth or piers, or different terms for these things. The Port of Long Beach is, of course, well known in the U.S. It's the second largest port in the U.S., only just a tiny bit behind its neighbor, the Port of Los Angeles. But in terms of GIS investment, it is definitely has the largest investment in GIS of any port in the U.S. The port sees thousands of ships every year. And while most berths are leased to tenants who manage the reservations, not all are. And in fact, the port deployed Enesgy in order to schedule port-controlled berths. So here's an example from the software where a reservation agent types in the dimensions that they need to reserve for a particular type of vessel, fills out the information, when are they expected in, when is the reservation good through, and then it's available to anybody who has access to the central map viewer of the port. There's a time slider so that they can see who's coming, but also who's been at a particular berth and has left. Sometimes that's important in case they left something behind. It also allows for searches, and as with the other two examples that I showed you, it has the ability to link directly to the port's enterprise document management system. And whereas this was deployed to manage the waterside reservations, it can equally be used to manage landside spaces. It comes with client reports that can be issued to the person who's going to be using this reservation. Also, there are billing reports which are used internally to generate the invoices monthly. So for the Port of Long Beach, the value proposition out of the Enesgy software, which of course sits on top of the port's considerable investment in Esri technology, and which it's had for many, many years, is that it leveraged that investment and the data and moved it into business workflow automation as opposed to just mapping, right, digital mapping. And in this case, it's helped to improve coordination between the various parties at the port, improve visibility of actions, and therefore help to avoid and reduce conflict between different parties who may take part in different berths, and also is improving the timely billing to those people who are using those berths. What's next for Enesgy there? It's pretty exciting. There's a complex internal permitting process at the port where people from maintenance or engineering or security or environmental have to coordinate various activities that relate to space, location, and time. And that is in the process of being automated also with Enesgy documents. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you letting me tell you about these implementations and how GIS is used to automate business processes in U.S. ports. My contact information is over there, and I hope to hear from you. Thank you very much.